Welcome to your channel, Dr. Gazavi. Economics and financial issues are very important. Let's go.
Similarly, in a policy brief, Serrate and Lopez, 2021, pointed out that central banks need to ensure their money remains relevant with progressive steps in the financial system. Considering stablecoins in particular, such a central bank concern seems in line with Morgan, 2022, when he states, looking ahead, however, the IMF, FSB, BIS, and numerous central banks and other regulators are concerned by the scope for rapid adoption of a stablecoin, rendering it systemic. With the perceived threat toward the significance of central bank money, the foundation of cryptocurrencies represents a threat to the functioning of monetary policies, such as other institutional policies, including international economic and geopolitical policies. The most recent and most evident case of cryptocurrencies as an instrument to circumnavigate economic geopolitical sanctions was observed at the beginning of Russia-Ukraine conflict. While the US and the European Union have imposed blocks on Russian transactions, 7 politicians in the Western world have feared that cryptocurrencies would provide a backdoor to move money around the world while they seek to shut Russia out of the global financial system. This worry does not lack foundation, since between the end of February and the beginning of March 2022, during the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the level of rubles exchanged against Bitcoin and the USDT stablecoin skyrocketed, even if for a short period, reaching its highest level on March 5, 2022, as shown in Fig. 5. Money characteristics and functions. An analysis of some major currencies in history. The worldwide explosion in the use of cryptocurrencies in the last 2 decades has been accompanied by questions regarding the appropriateness of associating them with fiat currencies, implying they hold characteristics usually attributed to money. It has been suggested that cryptocurrencies should be more appropriately named crypto assets, since they do not have the chief essence of government-issued currencies and money. Despite the different perspectives on money, economists tend to converge on specific main characteristics that an instrument should hold to be considered money: its function as a unit of account, a means of payment, and a store of value, wealth. Considering the previous characteristics, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have been highly criticized as money, given their inability to settle debts related to their means of payment function. Yermak, 2015, and Dow, 2019, for example, suggested that Bitcoin fails in all 3 previous characteristics. In particular, Dow, 2019, underlined how digital money fails as a means of payment since it is mainly used for speculative purposes. It fails as a unit of account because of its volatility, and for the same reason, it fails as a means to store value. In the same way, many authoritative public institutions declared Bitcoin's inability to function as money. In 2021, Jerome Powell claimed that Bitcoin is not useful as a store of value. It's more of a speculative asset that's essentially a substitute for gold rather than for the dollar. Regarding the nature and the emergence of money, it is possible to distinguish 2 primary schools of thought in explaining money's origin. The analysis of different theories about the emergence of money from a historical perspective might be useful to give some reference points concerning what different economies have faced through time. Even if it might be argued that the factors responsible for the historical emergence of money in ancient societies might be different from the factors that will be decisive for driving the adoption of a new currency in the contemporary economy, we feel that historical experiences can still teach us something to guide us in the future. On one side, the commodity theorists, mainly related to the orthodox economists, consider money an evolutionary phenomenon that spontaneously emerged from barter as a consequence of a society naturally looking for more efficient ways of making payments and trying to surpass the double coincidence of wants firmly embedded in barter itself. According to the orthodox point of view, the emergence of money is related to an intrinsic value, current or past, or an intrinsic utility related to any form of consumption, ornamental, or religious purposes. On the other side, the claim theories, mainly supported by the heterodox economists, highlight how money was already present even before barter, and as Weber, 2014, claims, money first emerged as a unit of account. Decreed by some authority, the state or other collective institutions, to denominate enforceable debt obligations and/or impose taxes. Generally, heterodox economists also point out that intrinsic value has not necessarily represented a prerequisite for its emergence in the past, and that the institutionalization of an instrument as money is more connected to its acceptance. In a similar vein, Lerner remarks, "The modern state can make anything it chooses generally acceptable as money and thus establish its value quite apart from any connection, even the most formal kind, with gold or with the backing of any kind. It is true that a simple declaration that such and such is money will not do, even if backed by the most convincing constitutional evidence of the state's absolute sovereignty. But if the state is willing to accept the proposed money in payment of taxes and other obligations to itself, the trick is done." Opening square bracket ellipsis closing square bracket. What this means is that whatever may have been the history of gold, at present, in a normally well-working economy, money is a creature of the state. Its general acceptability, which is its all-important attribute, stands or falls by its acceptability by the state. At this point, it is crucial to retrace the features of the essential instruments of payment that have constituted money according to different points of view and from a historical perspective. With that goal in mind, Table 1 compares gold, Fe, or rye, stones, Bitcoin, as representative of cryptocurrencies, USD or Euros, EUR, as an example of fiat money with a relatively stable value in the last decades, typically of developed economies. And Venezuelan Bolivar, VES, as an example of fiat money with an unstable value in the last decades, more typical of developing economies. Despite sharing the characteristic of non-counterfeitability, i.e., difficulty in replicating monetary instruments with illegal purposes, these forms of money have distinguishable features. The first instrument we analyzed is fiat money, such as USD, EUR, and VES. Beyond embodying the previously mentioned characteristics of the unit of account, means of payment, and store of value, all the fiat money instruments are issued and institutionally accepted by governments in their respective economies. Fiat money has no intrinsic value or value connected to consumption or ornamental or religious aspects. Umlauf, 2018, p. 13, pointed out that, lacking intrinsic value, fiat money thus derives its value from what Ingham, 2004, p. 29, terms the promise of last resort, the coercive power of the sovereign state manifested in the government levying taxes and accepting money for extinguishing the resulting debt to the state. The main difference between fiat money, USD, EUR, and VES, is its ability to maintain value. Relatively stable values have characterized currencies like EUR or USD during the last decades. However, currencies such as VES have been subject to extremely high depreciation that denied their possibility to maintain or increase value over time. For example, less than 2 Venezuelan bolívares soberanos and 50 centimos were sufficient to buy 1 United States dollar in August 2018. However, about 6 months later, February 2020, 1 United States dollar required 3,300 Venezuelan bolívares soberanos, and in August 2021, about 270,000 Venezuelan bolívares soberanos were required to buy the same amount. The Venezuelan currency depreciation continued exponentially plummeting, reaching a low of 4,200,000 Venezuelan bolívares soberanos to buy only one United States dollar in October 2021. The VES performed poorly in maintaining its value over time. However, despite extreme volatility or continued depreciation of VES, it has remained the legal tender in Venezuela. The government has continued to request citizens to pay taxes in VES. And citizens have continued to hold VES to pay government taxes. Gold and Fey stones share some features with fiat money, Table 1, but they are entirely different in other aspects, such as the possibility and necessity to mine, quarry them. The use of gold across different cultures and internationally has been well known for centuries as a means of payment and a store of value. Even today, gold still retains a pivotal role in the economy and is considered one of the safest assets, especially in times of inflation or any unstable economic scenario, and its function in the past as money in several economies is well known. Gold has always had a relevant intrinsic value, both in terms of term electric properties as a conductor or ornamental value and, in several cultures, as a religious and magical value. Finally, Fey stones were stone money used in the late 17th and 18th early centuries on the island of Yap or the Yap state. The most interesting features of these round stone currencies are their dimensions and value. The diameter of the Fey currencies varied from less than 5 centimeters to more than 3 meters, and most were between 30 and 50 centimeters. Fey stones were composed of limestone, which was not available on Yap Island, and had to be quarried and shaped from hundreds of miles away. The British naturalist Jan S. Caberry estimated that in 1882, more than 10% of the island's adult male population was in the money-cutting business. Fey, unlike gold, did not carry any intrinsic value. Bryan, 2004, highlighted that Fey did not have a particular use beyond their representative value and had no spiritual or ornamental function. The size of the stones was often associated with their value, but the primary determinant of that was the difficulty of obtaining, carving, and bringing them to Yap Island. Umlauf, 2018, correctly argues that Fey currency's value seems to be critically connected to the labor theory of value proposed by classical economists, such as Smith, Ricardo, and Marx, according to whom the value of a commodity is related to the amount of work embodied in its production process. Furness, 1910, pp. 92-93, presented this argument earlier. Finally, Bryan, 2004, pointed out the central institutional role of the island chiefs in the Yap Island monetary system since they authorized the expeditions to acquire new stones and retained all the larger stones and 2/5 of the smaller ones in the form of tax on the island population. In that way, Yap chiefs had complete and robust control over the monetary base by de facto controlling the quantity of money in circulation and by accepting the tax payment in Fey terms. In this sense, it is already possible to trace some similarities and differences between gold and Fey stones. In fact, beyond sharing the features of the unit of account, means of payment, and store of value, both were institutionally accepted to pay taxes and settle debts and were obtained by manual labor mining, quarrying. Nonetheless, while the labor cost related to the extraction and transport activity was the main factor in determining the value of Fey stones, the mining cost has not been the only driver in determining the price of gold, particularly in the last decades. Fig. 6, below, shows the average gold price, its all-in sustaining cost, AISC, and their difference. AISC is one of the most relevant gold profitability indicators representing the cost of gold mining. It is possible to observe how both the AISC and the average gold price have rapidly increased in the 21st century, but the gap between them has widened by detaching the former from the latter. Therefore, the previous considerations suggest that gold is intrinsically different from Fey stones because of its intrinsic and versatile value, divisibility, and portability, and because of two further aspects. First, gold extraction and provision have not been institutionally bounded, while quarrying face stones was bounded by the Yap chiefs who authorized expeditions to extract and shape the material. Second, unlike face stones, the gold price has been detached from its manual labor mining, quarrying cost of production and has been strongly influenced by the demand and supply law, especially in the last 2 decades. Why so much worrying? Are cryptos a form of money? After the previous overview of some significant currencies in history,
Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel. Economic and financial issues are very important. See you in the next video.